Good evening and welcome to the Employment Policy Committee of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council on Tuesday the 29th of October. We are live streaming, so I will just make sure when the moment we'll go around and just make sure that we know who's in the room and so you know who's talking when different people start to talk. So I'm Councillor Ed Hume, I'm chair of this committee.
I'm Julie Shepherd, I'm the clerk to the council.
Councillor Richardson.
Councillor Nathaniel Kelly-Wilson.
Thank you very much. Clark, have you had any notices of apologies for absence?
We've had apologies from Councillor Fernandez. I think that Councillor Ely may not be here because he's unwell, but I haven't heard from him.
Okay. Item 2, to note councillors' declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. Are there any interests to declare? No. Item 3, to approve minutes of the previous meeting. Are they all approved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, great. Item 4, public speaking. Clark, have we had any representations for members of the public to speak on this item?
Not today.
Thank you very much. Item 5, to receive a report on health and safety matters affecting employees and council activities. Clark.
My apologies that this is a verbal report, an oral report rather. That's because of workload issues, but from a health and safety point of view, there is one matter I wish to report to you, but I prefer to do that when we reach the confidential part of the meeting, if that's all right.
Okay.
Because I think because it concerns them, it may involve confidential information.
Are we all happy? Shall we discuss this item then?
I've got some things I can report in the public domain.
Okay, let's do that into public domain and we'll split it.
Otherwise, as you know, we switched our health and safety provider earlier this year, and we are making good progress with everything. We've completed our all our visits, we've done our action plans, we've renewed most people's first aid training this year. We have we've now there were 2 members of staff, I don't know if you recall, there were 2 members of staff who didn't have council provided telephones, which was a concern to us from a lone working point of view, and they have now both agreed to have council telephones, so that matter's in hand now. As far as I'm concerned, everything's up to date. Everyone's been issued with the new health and safety handbook. I haven't quite got all the slips back in from everybody confirming that they've read it and understood it, but we're well on the way with that. So there's really nothing to report. There's been no accidents at work of any significance since the last meeting, just minor cuts.
Right. Any questions at all on that report or comments? We will note that in part and we will note the further item, so we'll come to the remaining part of item 5 later on. Item 6, to receive an update report on implementation of new employee handbooks, contracts and performance management system.
Again, my apologies that this is an oral report, but we have made progress since the last meeting with this. The new employee handbooks have been issued to everybody, and the line managers have been through them with their employees in their team. We've not had any sort of adverse comment. There was one question about layoff in the employee handbook. It does say that in the event of adverse weather, if we haven't got any work for people, we might require them to take their annual leave. But it would be, we've explained to the employees that would have to be something like a prolonged period of snow, and there would have to be no other work that we could give them to do, and we don't envisage that happening. And I'm sure that if we got to that position, the council would take a view. It's just covering all the eventualities, and that appeared to be accepted by the employees. I think they were just concerned, but once it was explained, everybody seemed to be happy with it. So that's the only thing. I was hoping I'd be able to tell you that all the revised contracts had been completed by today, but they haven't for a range of reasons, which I can tell you about afterwards. But again, it's nothing adverse. I don't think anybody's concerned about it. Nobody's said that they're concerned about signing the new contract. We're using all the new software, and with effect from this Monday, we've phased out everything else. So now everyone's clocking in using their phone, using Flip to the Blip app that we're using to clock in, clock out and take breaks. And that seems to be working quite well. It's just a question of, I mean, we've been using it for a while. We're officially using it as from yesterday, but it's just everybody needs to remember to do it, and that's the challenge. We've got notices in various places saying, have you clocked in, have you clocked in? It seems to be going very well.
Are there any questions on that update?
No.
Shall we note that update?
Thank you.
Item 7, to ratify the Town Council prevention of sexual harassment at work arrangements. Clark.
You'll be aware that there's been a change to the legislation, and it isn't a big change, but the Equality Act's been amended to be more proactive with regards to sexual harassment. So we now, with effect from the 26th of this month, which I think was either Friday or Saturday, had a new duty to effectively demonstrate that we've taken reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. So we already had policies within the employment handbook about sexual harassment, but I've sent you by email, and also it's now in the pack for the meeting, a draft sexual harassment policy, which is based on the model provided by Peninsula, which I'd like to adopt as soon as possible, because obviously that duty came into force on the 26th. There are a couple of parts of the policy that you'll have seen are in red, and they concern whether or not we as an organisation should have a separate method for employees to report allegations of sexual harassment via a dedicated email address that is solely for that purpose. Thinking about the practicality of that, and bearing in mind we've only got 13 employees, 12 at the moment, and that we probably need to there'd probably be some cost in setting up another inbox, and we've already got a lot of inboxes. My preference in terms of managing the team and managing that inbox would be that we don't set up such a dedicated email account purely for sexual harassment, because it would need checking daily. And I think there might be some cost because of the way we work our 365 licenses. But if members feel very strongly that that is the best method, and that we should have that in addition to the arrangements we've got whereby staff can contact the clerk, and they can also co-opt a colleague to help them do the reporting and to assist them with it if they feel concerned or it's difficult for them to do it. I personally don't think it's necessary, but it's a matter for you.
So I guess my thing on this one is we've already got process in place to make complaints in terms of the process. I do get the point about highlighting the fact that if there is one of this nature, how are we recording it? But I don't necessarily think we need to majorly deviate from our current processes. I noticed in here you've got the town clerk, the deputy town clerk, but again, there is also a route if that is not possible to the chair of this committee.
Yeah,
I think that sorry, so I can see why they put this, and I think this is actually designed for a much larger organisation. The organisation that I work for, we actually have an outsourced service where they answer the phone 24 hours a day, blah blah. I actually think that we should delete the part that says optional and insert if you wish, if the person you wish to make an allegation against is either the town clerk or the deputy town clerk, then you should approach the chair of the employment policy committee.
that's easily done, isn't it?
Or myself.
Yeah. I've also included in the pack for tonight the risk assessment, which I've done. I've prepared. It hasn't. It's been reviewed by the Deputy Town Clerk only. The risk assessment ratings are quite high on some of the issues, which is because I do think sexual harassment, particularly from the public and from people that we don't necessarily have direct control over, is a risk for our employees. And I don't really see how. So there are some of the risks identified in the risk assessment do come out as medium. And I don't know whether you think I've rated them too highly, or whether you think there are any other measures that could be introduced to mitigate against that risk.
Any comments on that? I mean, for my look at it, I think actually what you've done is perfectly fair.
I mean, obviously, we'd rather not have anything in the medium. We'd rather have everything in the green category rather than in the amber category. But I don't see how we can remove all risk.
I think with one of the risks, what training are we providing for staff? And
so there is they already have inclusion and diversity training, and as part of a video training annually, which comes as part of the package. And that includes discussions of harassment and respecting the protected characteristics and so forth. But we will also be doing some face-to-face workshops in the team meetings that are held to explore what actually, to have some more general discussions about what constitutes sexual harassment, ways of dealing with it, ways of because I think it can be quite mild, can't it? And people can feel that they have to put up with it, but actually they don't. So we did think we would do our own in-house training, as well as the regular videos that they have as part of their annual reminder about things. I mean, those videos, they are good, and you do have to pass a test at the end of them, but they're not in depth. And if there is an issue in the workplace, then I think what we'd look to monitor and bring in some external training at that point.
Okay.
But at the moment, it's, well, don't want to jinx it, but so far it's not been a major issue for us, but not in recent years.
Yes. Was there anything else in the policy that you wanted to bring out?
No, not really, just those. I think the reds were all about the red sections were all about that reporting, the method of reporting.
Yeah.
And then we do continually stress to employees that if they need to have difficult conversations at work, that one of the ways to prepare for that is to use the EAP and talk through the best ways to have a conversation at work with the counselling service, and they will support them.
Great. Do we want to adopt the policy as? Is it recommended to the council, or do we adopt it? We adopt it, don't we?
I think we adopt it.
Yeah.
We adopt the stuff.
So we adopt the policy with the bearing in mind the comments that we've made this evening.
yeah, agreed.
Agreed. Great. Pleased to see that and place that policy. Item 8, to receive a financial management report showing expenditure against budget for the year to date on employment matters.
And you should be able to see that in your pack. There isn't anything very significant to report. You'll be aware that we have a post that is unfilled as a former member of staff elected not to return following maternity leave, which is, I think that if you take that into consideration, I think we're just pretty much exactly where we'd expect to be at this stage in the year.
Okay. Are there any questions on that matter? Great, noted.
Sorry,
Oh,
last question. with regards to employers NI, is that so? It's that I have heard or I've seen rumours that the public sector are going to be reimbursed. I don't know how that would work for a parish or town council, or whether it's a really wide-ranging statement that they haven't thought about.
I think we're just
Wait till tomorrow.
just gonna have to wait till tomorrow. We just don't know. But what I would say is that we've now had, and I was going to mention this later on, we've now had the pay settlement for, we have to have the pay settlement for this year, which was announced on the 23rd of October. So basically, all staff who were in employment on the 1st of April this year will, if they are it's the same sort of arrangement as they made last year. So below a certain grade, it's a lump sum payment of £12.50 for the year. And the majority of our staff will fall into that category. There are one or two people who are due to have a 2.5% increase instead. I will circulate the new rates so that you can see them, but it's below what we budgeted for. However, if the national insurance change is punitive or challenging and is introduced quickly, we might find ourselves in difficulties, but we'll need to think about it for next year's budget.
Okay. Is that report noted?
Yes.
Great. Item 9, to consider exclusion of the public from the following items of business, as discussion will likely to involve personal and confidential information. So that's items 10, 11 and 12, but also that part 5 that we need to discuss. Are we all in agreement that we should exclude the public?
Yes. Agreed.
Agreed. Clark, will you do the honours of ending the live stream, and thank you very much for tuning into the council's news.